Have you ever tried looking back at the last 10 years of your life and suddenly realized an uncomfortable truth? That it's very possible you didn't actually live 10 years. You only lived 1 year repeated 10 times. The same habits, the same way of thinking, the same promises you made to yourself at the beginning of each year, then quietly forgot when life slipped back into its old rhythm. I've seen this happen to so many people. Good people, smart people, people with dreams. They didn't fail because they lacked ability. They failed because they didn't change who they were fast enough to deserve a different future. You see, a new year doesn't bring magic. The calendar just flips a page. Life doesn't. If you don't change the way you think, the way you act, and the standards you accept every day, then next year will just be a copy of last year, except you'll be 1 year older. And the cost of standing still doesn't show up right away. It accumulates silently, like interest. It shows up later in the form of the opportunities you didn't take, the skills you didn't build, and a familiar sentence echoing in your head. I wish I had started earlier. But here's the good news. You don't need to change everything at once. You just need to stop standing still. In this video, I'll share with you 12 core principles, the things you must improve before 2026, if you don't want to keep living the same life on repeat while the world out there keeps moving forward. These are not ideas meant to sound good. These are principles meant to be lived by. And stay until the end of the video, because principle number 9 is the one most people underestimate. Yet it's the very thing that determines whether your effort will last or flare up and burn out like every time before. Now, let's start with the first truth, a truth that isn't easy to hear, but can change the entire trajectory of your life. Principle 1. Standing still is the most expensive choice. There is a very dangerous illusion that many people carry with them their entire lives. It's the belief that if I'm not moving forward, at least I'm not moving backward. It sounds reasonable, but it's not true. In life, standing still is not neutral. Standing still means falling behind, just slower, quieter, and harder to notice. I've met so many people who tell me, my life is fine. It's not that bad. It's okay. And those very words are what keep them stuck for years. They don't fail spectacularly, but they also never truly live up to their potential. You see, the world doesn't stand still waiting for you to decide. While you keep everything the same, others are learning new skills. Others are raising their standards of living. Others are preparing for opportunities you haven't even noticed yet. And time never falls asleep. Time is like interest. It amplifies whatever you give it. If you give it procrastination, it will amplify regret. If you give it discipline, it will amplify freedom. The problem is, the cost of standing still isn't charged immediately. It doesn't knock on your door tomorrow. It comes years later, when you look back and ask yourself, why is everything still the same even though I've been so busy? Busy is not progress. Activity is not growth. So many people live an entire decade with only 1 year repeated. The same income, the same fears, the same reactions to life. They call it stability. But in reality, it's just survival in disguise. I've been there. There was a time in my life when I thought working hard was enough. That as long as I didn't make big mistakes, everything would be fine. But then I realized an uncomfortable truth. Life doesn't reward safety. It rewards growth. You cannot stay the same person you are today and expect a completely different future tomorrow. That violates every law of nature. A tree that doesn't grow will die. A body that doesn't move will weaken. A mind that doesn't learn will stagnate. Humans are no different. So the important question isn't, is your life okay? The real question is, are you better than you were last year? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to make progress. A little more discipline, a higher standard, a more decisive choice. Because if you don't consciously choose growth, life will quietly choose stagnation for you. And one day, you will pay the price, not with money, but with years you can never get back. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many times have you lived the past year? Is there something in your life you know needs to change, but you keep delaying? Change doesn't start with big actions. It starts with the awareness that standing still is too expensive. And once you face that truth head on, you're ready for the next principle, one that goes even deeper. Principle 2: identity comes before improvement. After you accept the truth that standing still is too expensive, a deeper question appears. It's a question very few people are brave enough to face. Why have I tried to change so many times yet still ended up back where I started? Many people think improving life is a matter of technique. They look for new tools. They learn new strategies. They change schedules, apps, plans, but they ignore one core thing. You don't fail because you lack methods. You fail because you're trying to build a new life on top of the same old person. Improvement doesn't start with habits. It starts with identity. You don't try to be disciplined. You become a disciplined person. You don't force yourself to focus. You are someone who doesn't tolerate distraction. Most people live with an internal contradiction. They say, I want to be successful. But deep inside, they still see themselves as a procrastinator, someone who gives up easily, someone who isn't cut out for big things. And whenever their actions go against that identity, their mind pulls them back to what feels familiar, because humans always act in alignment with how they see themselves. I used to think change was about willpower, that if I was determined enough, I could force myself to live differently. But then I learned an important lesson. Willpower gets tired very quickly. Identity doesn't. You can use willpower to wake up early for a few days. But if deep down you still see yourself as not a disciplined person, you'll soon return to that familiar bed. The question is not, what do I need to do to be better? The right question is, what kind of person am I becoming every day? Every small action you repeat doesn't just create results, it casts a vote for the person you believe you are. When you read every day, you're voting for the identity of a learner. When you keep promises to yourself, you're voting for the identity of someone reliable. And when you repeatedly break commitments, you're voting too, just for a different person. This is why real change doesn't start with a to-do list, but with standards you no longer accept falling below. You don't say, I'll try to be more disciplined. You say, this is who I am. And this person doesn't negotiate with comfort. Pause and ask yourself, if someone observed your daily life for 30 days, what kind of person would they say you are? Someone serious or someone who procrastinates? Someone proactive or someone reactive? Someone who builds or someone who waits? Because in 2026, the most important thing you need to improve is not a skill, not a plan, but the identity you are reinforcing every day. And once identity changes, discipline is no longer a burden. It becomes a natural way of living. That's when we're ready to move on to the next principle. A principle that keeps everything from collapsing when emotions fade. Principle 3. Self-discipline is the backbone of freedom. When your identity is clear, the next question is no longer what do I want, but rather, what will keep me on track when my emotions are no longer on my side? The answer is always the same. Whether you're talking about success, health, finances, or relationships, discipline. Many people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is punishment, force, a harsh life that trades away joy. But discipline is not a prison. Discipline is a bridge. It connects what you want to what you actually get. Without that bridge, dreams stay on the other side of the river, beautiful but untouchable. I used to think success came from intense effort over short periods of time, working relentlessly for a few weeks, then allowing myself to slack off. But life taught me a different lesson. Real progress comes from small disciplines repeated every day, not from temporary bursts of effort. Missing one day doesn't seem serious. A loose week doesn't look that dangerous either. But then a month passes, and old habits return, taking back everything you thought you had built. Discipline always asks you to pay up front. Comfort charges later with interest. Every time you choose the easy path, you're signing a silent agreement with the future. I'll deal with bigger difficulties later. And every time you choose discipline, you're buying something very few people own. Freedom. Freedom from regret. Freedom from dependence. Freedom from having to explain why your life isn't what you hoped it would be. Discipline doesn't start with big decisions. It starts very small. Waking up when you said you would. Reading a few pages every day. Spending 20 minutes taking care of your body. Keeping a small commitment even when no one is watching. Winning isn't in the action itself. It's in the habit formed by that action. The moment you can trust yourself, you've built the foundation for every other goal. And here's what matters. No one can give you discipline. No coach can do it for you. No motivational speaker can live your life for you. You have to decide who's in control, you or your momentary impulses. Discipline creates confidence, not the kind that comes from praise, but the certainty that comes from saying, I do what I said I would do. Most people wait for motivation before they act, but that's the wrong order. Action creates motivation. Discipline starts the wheel. Momentum keeps it spinning. So ask yourself this. If you lost all motivation for the next 30 days, what in your life would you still do consistently? That answers your true level of discipline. Because when you lose discipline, you don't just lose progress, you lose direction. And that's why the next principle becomes critical. Even the most disciplined person can't go far if their energy is scattered. Principle 4. Focus multiplies. Everything you touch, discipline gives you the power to act. But focus determines whether that power is multiplied or wasted. Think about sunlight. When it spreads everywhere, it only provides warmth. But when it's concentrated into a laser beam, it can cut through steel. Life works by the same rule. Many people work hard. They're busy all day. They're constantly moving, but the results are minimal, not because they lack effort, but because their effort is scattered. They confuse motion with progress, noise with effectiveness, doing many things with doing the right thing. Today, attention is a form of currency. Every day, hundreds of things compete to withdraw from your focus account: notifications, emails, news, conversations that lead nowhere. Every interruption costs you more than time, it costs you momentum. And momentum is hard to build, but very easy to lose. You wouldn't hand your wallet to a stranger. So why do you hand your attention to anything that flashes in front of you? The truth is, you don't lack time, you lack focus. You don't need to do more. You need to do less but better. When the mind is divided, every effort loses power. Half focus produces half results, no matter how much energy you pour in. The world doesn't reward the person who does the most things. It rewards the person who does the right thing long enough. Every yes in your life must be accompanied by hundreds of quiet no's. You can't chase every opportunity. You can't answer every call. Every time you say yes to the trivial, you're saying no to the important. Mastery demands focus. Amateurs are busy. Professionals are effective. One important skill refined deeply creates more value than 20 skills learned halfway. And here's what many people don't realize. Busyness is the enemy of progress. A packed schedule doesn't equal a meaningful life. Constant reaction is not creation. If you want more focus, take control of your mental environment. Start the day before the world intrudes. Think before you turn on a screen. Read before you scroll. Create before you consume. When you control what comes in, you control what goes out. Pause and ask yourself, what truly deserves your best attention in this phase of life? And what is quietly stealing it every day? Because when you master focus, you master your future. But to sustain focus, you need another foundation. The thing that supports every effort, every decision, every discipline. If your energy is depleted, focus is just a good intention on paper. And that's why the next principle becomes the foundation of everything. Principle 5: energy is your first investment. You can have clear goals. You can have discipline. You can even know exactly what to focus on. But if your energy is depleted, all of it is just good intention, nothing more. You can't build a strong year on a tired body. You can't lead your life when you're dragging yourself through each day. I used to think success only required mental toughness, that if I were just a little tougher, everything would work out. But then I realized, a weak body drags the mind down with it. When you're tired, everything feels harder. Every decision is slower. Every problem feels bigger than it really is. Energy isn't just physical. It's a combination of body, mind, and emotion. When one of the three weakens, the other two soon follow. Start with the most basic thing, sleep. Most people treat sleep as optional, but sleep isn't dead time. It's the reset button for the brain. You can't grind through life in a state of exhaustion without paying a price. The body collects every unpaid rest debt in the form of burnout, illness, or poor decisions at critical moments. Then there's food. Food isn't just for enjoyment. It's fuel. Poor fuel produces poor performance. Eating for comfort is easy. Eating for performance is harder, but the benefits last for years. And don't forget movement. The body is designed to move. When you move, you activate energy. You remind yourself that motion creates momentum. It doesn't have to be perfect, just consistent. A walk, a few minutes of intentional movement, a little every day, but never skipped. The most important thing I've learned is this: managing energy is more important than managing time. You can have 12 free hours, but if your energy is 0, those 12 hours are worthless. Emotions also drain energy. Anxiety, bitterness, frustration, they burn you out faster than physical labor. On the other hand, Gratitude, clear purpose, and genuine enthusiasm can restore the energy you've lost. So, ask yourself, what is recharging your energy every day? And what is quietly draining it? Because if you don't protect your energy, no goal is strong enough to save you. If at this point you realize that your problem isn't a lack of motivation but a lack of foundation, subscribe to the channel. Because in the next parts, we'll talk about environment, skills, habits, and mindset, the things that determine whether the energy you build gets drained or multiplied over time. And now, when you have energy, the next question is, what around you is lifting you up and what is pulling you down every day? Principle 6, your environment is stronger than your willpower. A lot of people believe, if I'm determined enough, I can overcome any circumstances. It sounds powerful, but the truth is different. Willpower is very fragile when it has to face the wrong environment. You don't live in a vacuum. You live in an ecosystem. The people you meet, the conversations you hear, the standards you see every day. And that environment is either pushing you forward or quietly pulling you down. I've seen people full of potential slow down, weaken, and then quit, not because they weren't capable, but because they stayed too long in an environment where mediocrity is treated as normal. Notice this, your ambition will change depending on the room you walk into. Around people who complain, you'll start making excuses. Around serious people, you'll start raising your standards. Every relationship carries influence. Some people give you energy, some people keep you standing still, and some quietly drain you. Improving your environment doesn't mean judging others. It means protecting your own potential. You can't expect big thinking in a cramped space. You can't plant roses on concrete and then blame them for not blooming. The soil matters. The climate matters. Care matters too, and so do humans. Your environment isn't only people. It's what you read, what you watch, what you allow into your mind every day. If you feed your mind negativity, you'll think small. If you feed it with principles, you'll think steadily. And there's another environment many people forget, your inner environment. The thoughts you repeat, the stories you tell yourself, the standards you quietly accept. If you tell yourself every day that I'm not cut out for big things, your mind will build walls before life even has a chance to open doors. Improving your environment requires pruning. Less time for meaningless conversations, less exposure to things that scatter your attention, more time for learning, for reflection, for people who force you to level up. Sometimes this means you'll walk a fairly lonely stretch of road. But being alone is not the same as being lonely. It's building time. Ask yourself, who makes you want to be better just by being around them? And what in your current environment is slowing you down? Because willpower only gets you a few steps. The right environment will carry you far without you having to strain. And once your environment has been redesigned, you'll realize something very important. Life doesn't pay you for what you want. It pays you for value. And that value comes from what's next, the thing the market always rewards generously. Principle 7, skills pay better than effort. Life has a very fair rule. Even if it's sometimes hard to accept, the world doesn't pay for effort. It pays for value. A lot of people work hard. They arrive early. They leave late. They're tired, but they keep going. Yet the results don't match. Not because they're lazy, but because their effort is not being transformed into skill. Effort is like wind. Skill is like a sail. The wind can be strong, but if the sail is small or torn, the boat still won't go far. I used to think doing more than everyone else was enough. But then I learned an important lesson. Doing a lot of the wrong work never replaces doing less of the right work the right way. The market doesn't ask how long you tried. It asks, what can you do? Talent is potential. Skill is proof. A lot of people want big rewards but refuse to pay the price of sharpening their ability. They want a promotion without learning beyond what they're already paid to do. They want financial freedom without learning how to manage money. They want respect without becoming excellent in their field. Learning doesn't stop when you leave school. In fact, that's when it begins. Every book, every workshop, every conversation with someone better than you adds another layer of value to who you are. And this is critical. Skills become outdated faster than you think. What works today can become average tomorrow. That's why adaptability is also a skill. People who keep learning don't fear change. People who stop learning call change a threat. Don't collect knowledge randomly. Learn with intention. It's better to master one important skill than to know 10 others superficially. People who are decent at many things stay busy. People who are excellent at one core thing get sought after. And here's a secret most people miss. Skills multiply when they're used and shared. When you teach what you know, you understand it more deeply. When you apply what you learn, it becomes part of who you are. Start small. 1 book a month. 1 skill to sharpen this year. 1 hour a week of deliberate practice. A year goes by very fast. But the value you build in that year can pay you back for many years afterward. Ask yourself, what skill, if you seriously improved it over the next 12 months, would make you irreplaceable? And how much time are you investing in it each week? Because money can go up and down. The market can change, but real ability stays. And when your skills are strong enough, they need something to run sustainably every day, a structure that doesn't depend on emotion. That's when we move on to the next principle. Principle 8 habits are the architecture of destiny. There is a very interesting paradox in life. Most people want to change the results, but keep the same habits. They want a different year, but still start each day the same way. They want a better life, but keep repeating familiar actions and then hope a miracle will appear. But life doesn't run on miracles. It runs on habits. Goals give you direction, but habits build the road. Without the road, the destination is just a nice idea on paper. Many people overestimate motivation and underestimate structure. They say, when I feel inspired, I'll do it. But inspiration is unreliable. Habits are loyal. The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of the systems you've built. Habits are silent architects. Every day, they lay another brick for your character, health, income, and confidence. The problem is, most habits operate unconsciously. You wake up, you react, you scroll, you procrastinate, you repeat, and then you wonder why time moves so fast while life stays the same. Improvement begins when you break that loop and ask one simple but honest question. Is this habit serving my future or stealing it? Successful people aren't necessarily smarter. They just run better habits. Their days have rhythm. Their actions have order. Each small action reinforces the next. That consistency compounds faster than any burst of effort ever could. And this is very important. Habits create identity. You read every day, you start seeing yourself as a learner. You exercise consistently, you start seeing yourself as a disciplined person. Every habit is a vote for the person you are becoming. Don't try to change everything at once. That's the fastest way to quit. Add 1 small good habit. Remove 1 small bad habit. 5 minutes of gratitude can change how you see life. 10 minutes of planning can save you from hours of chaos. 1 daily reflection can correct your direction before a whole month slips by. Good habits are hard to build, but easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to build, but very hard to live with long term. You will pay a price, either upfront with discipline or later with regret. Ask yourself, what do you do every day without thinking, and where will it take you in 12 months? If you keep your current habits, will you be satisfied with your life 1 year from now? Because the future is not created by occasional promises, but by actions repeated every day. And once habits are in motion, you'll face another challenge, not from the outside, but from within. Tired days, moments of failure, times when life doesn't go according to plan. That's when the next principle decides whether you break or grow. Principle 9, consistency beats intensity every time. Many people start very strong. They're excited. They're determined. They do everything at once. And then they disappear, not because they lack ability, but because they overvalue intensity and underestimate consistency. Intensity creates the feeling of progress, but consistency creates results. Life isn't built on rare, extraordinary days. It's built on very ordinary days, repeated long enough. You can work 14 hours a day for 1 week, but if you can't sustain that pace, it's not a strategy, it's just an impulse disguised as ambition. Consistency is different. It's quiet, it doesn't impress, but it compounds. Water dripping is silent, but over time, it can carve through stone. I've seen many talented people lose to less talented ones. For one simple reason, the other person didn't quit when emotions faded. Motivation comes and goes. Energy rises and falls. Life has good days and many bad ones. Winners aren't the people who are always motivated. They're the ones who show up consistently, even when they don't feel like it. Here's the key difference. Consistent people measure success in years. Impulsive people measure it in days. Those who measure by days get discouraged easily. Those who measure by years stay patient. Consistency allows mistakes. You can have a bad day, but you don't allow one bad day to turn into a bad week. You don't need to do more. You need to do enough and do it regularly. One small step every day beats one big leap every month. And this is critical. Consistency protects you from emotion. It gives you a system to keep going even when your mood doesn't cooperate. When you commit to a rhythm, you no longer have to argue with yourself every morning. You just do the work and let time do the rest. Ask yourself, what are you doing too intensely for a short period? That should be done more lightly but consistently. If you only maintain 70% of your current effort for 12 months, how different would your life be? Because success doesn't come from how intensely you tried, but from how long you refused to quit. And just when you think that consistency alone is enough, life presents the next challenge: failure, pressure, events you can't control. At that point, it's no longer discipline or habits that decide everything, but how you face adversity. Principle 10: emotional control is a competitive advantage. Life will not ask whether you are ready or not. It will throw bad days at you, plans that fall apart, people who disappoint you, results that don't match the effort you put in. The question is not, will bad things happen? It is, how do you respond when they do? Most people react. They let emotions take the wheel. They rush. They lose heart. They say or do things that make everything worse. But people who go far do something different. They respond, not react. This difference is small, but the consequences are huge. Reaction burns energy. Response preserves it. Emotions are like the weather. They change constantly. If you build your life on emotions, you are building on sand. Real strength is not the absence of emotion. It is not letting emotion make decisions for you. A weak mind asks, why is this happening to me? A strong mind asks, what is this teaching me? The same event. One person breaks. Another grows. The difference is not the circumstance. It is the interpretation. You cannot control what happens, but you can always control the meaning you assign to it. And that meaning determines your next action. People without emotional control live in chaos. They make decisions when tired, when angry, when afraid. People who master their emotions build their lives on principles, not moods. Emotions change by the hour. Principles endure. When you act from principles, you remain steady, even when everything around you is shaking. Emotional control is not built during the storm. It is trained beforehand, through reading, through reflection, through writing down what you learn each day, through caring for your body and your energy. Gratitude is also an emotional strength. It is very hard to be bitter and grateful at the same time. Gratitude turns difficulty into data, not a sentence. Ask yourself, when things don't go your way, do you usually react or respond? Is there an emotion that is causing you to make decisions you later have to pay for? Because in a volatile world, the person who keeps a cool head will always stay ahead. And once you have control over your emotions, you need something to guide all that effort. Discipline without purpose becomes exhaustion. Effort without direction becomes busyness. That's when we need the next principle, the one that gives meaning to every action. Principle 11: vision gives meaning to discipline. Discipline can move you forward, but vision gives you a reason not to quit. You can work hard all year. You can be busy every day. But if you don't know where you're going, all that effort eventually becomes movement without meaning. A person without vision lives in reaction mode. They handle what's in front of them, solve problems as they appear, then repeat the cycle until they're exhausted. Not because they're weak, but because they don't have a clear destination. Vision answers the two most important questions in life. Why am I doing this? And what am I building? When you know why, you can endure almost any how. Without vision, discipline becomes a burden. With vision, discipline becomes a privilege. You stop saying, I have to. You start saying, I get to. Many people live someone else's dream. They chase society's standards, family expectations, the noise of the crowd. Then one day, they achieve what they think is success and feel empty, because success without meaning is just as exhausting as failure. Vision is not daydreaming. It is a blueprint. You see the finished structure. Before the first brick is laid, when you have vision, you begin to filter. You say no more easily. You stop chasing every opportunity. You choose what fits. Vision doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be real. It comes from the things that trouble you, the things you can't ignore, the injustices you want to fix, the values you want to live by. Write it down, not for the world, for yourself. Because a written vision will guide you. When emotions waver, ask yourself, 1 year from now, what kind of person do you want to become? What kind of life would make you proud when you look back? Not what you own, but who you become. Because vision turns effort into mission, turns habits into a path, turns discipline into legacy. And once you clearly see the road you want to take, there is one final principle that determines whether all of this actually becomes reality. Because knowledge does not change your life. Action does. Principle 12. Accountability turns knowledge into results. The truth is this: knowing the right thing does not change your life. Doing the right thing consistently does. You've heard many powerful principles. You understand what needs to improve. You know what you should do. But the final question, the most important question is, who will make sure you actually do it? Without accountability, every intention fades with time. Without measurement, every plan slowly dissolves. The human mind forgets promises faster than it makes them. That's why personal accountability is the final bridge between knowledge and results. Accountability is not self-blame. It is honesty. Honesty about where you are. Honesty about what you're avoiding. Honesty about the price you haven't been willing to pay. When you write your goals down, you turn thoughts into commitments. When you attach commitments to specific actions, you turn desire into a plan. When you measure progress, you turn plans into reality. Don't wait for the perfect moment. There isn't one. Start small, but start now. One habit this week. One skill to sharpen. One conversation that needs to happen. One promise to yourself, and keep it. Many people overestimate what they can do in 1 week and underestimate what they can do in 1 year. Time will pass whether you act or not. The question is, will it pass in your favor or against you? When you take responsibility for your life, excuses lose their power. No more blaming circumstances. No more waiting for someone to come save you. There's only one person left, standing in front of the mirror saying, I take responsibility. And in that very moment, everything begins to change. In 2026, you don't need to become a completely different person. You only need to become a better version of yourself, a little every day. These principles today are not meant to be memorized. They are meant to be lived. Discipline, focus, energy, environment, skills, habits, consistency, emotional control, vision, and accountability. You don't need to apply all of them at once. Choose one and start today. If this video made you stop and think, like it to support the channel, and subscribe to Rohn Treasures to continue the journey of building a disciplined, valuable, and meaningful life. A question for you. Among the 12 principles today, which one will you apply first and why? And remember this: if you can master one day, you can master an entire life. See you in the next lesson.